What if there was no wind?
So I was thinking about a few different possibilities when I first started looking at this.
1, kill all the plants. 2, kill almost all the plants and then all the plants.
So what I eventually the problem I ran into was that I found 3, sort of like the way that we do like an answer on this show is we'll start with something sort of like simple and then eventually move on to something absurd, I found 3 really good absurd things that all involve terrible ways to die. Terrible and exciting ways to die. I want to put the exciting ways to die thing in there. So I decided eventually that the lead up to all of them wasn't that great, but all the ways were awesome. So I'm just going to share 3 exciting ways that you will die if there is no wind.
That's a headline right
You
there.
won't believe number 3.
3 is very fun. I'm quite excited for 3. So let's start with the one that does kill basically all plants. So the first sort of side effect of no wind that I sort of came across was that water's not really going to move anymore because... So think about like the way the water cycle works is, water evaporates, clouds form, those get blown around, eventually they condense enough that it rains somewhere else. But there's no wind. So like over a lake, what's going to happen is the water's all going to evaporate and then just sort of sit there, then eventually rain back down into the lake. And all the water is going to flow to oceans and lakes and not get pushed back out to areas not by water. So what's going to slowly happen is just pretty much the entire world is going to turn into a giant desert dotted with little oases where lakes were. And really the only livable places will be either right next to lakes or maybe rivers. So rivers are going to dry up eventually because aquifers only refill when like there's rain nearby and it filters down through the ground. So it's really just going to be by oceans and lakes, and that's kind of it.
Damn.
Way to kill my answer.
Way to kill everything. That's an exciting way to die.
I'm
Number 1.
I'm glad I went before you.
Hey, I can still build a space elevator.
Well, I'm assuming you want to, like, for the industrial capacity for that, you probably have to be near, like, a major city, right?
I mean, you can put it anywhere. You can put it right in the fucking ocean bed.
Oh, but I mean, like,
water.
just in order to get, have all the shipments going in and all the workers for it, you'd probably have to be near a city, just practically.
Well, you probably got to be a bit near a lake because everyone else is going to be dead in the desert.
I'm kind of assuming that these are all separate because if they happen at the same time, we're just super boned. So let's move on to method 2,
All right.
which is that basically cities are just 100% lethal. So as you're probably aware, when we breathe, we breathe in oxygen and then breathe out carbon dioxide. At rest, we consume somewhere from 1.4 to 1.6 liters of oxygen per minute. To give an example, sort of for like some perspective on that amount, using someone else's math because I was too lazy to do my own. I found it when I was looking this up. If you were in an airtight 12 cubic foot room, there would be 339.8 liters of air in that room. That air is going to be about 20% oxygen. So that's going to be like 68 liters of oxygen. So that means that you would run out of oxygen in that room in about 48 and a half minutes. Roughly. Less if you started panicking. You'll breathe faster. So
I am in like a 12 by 14 room bed and I am now very my doors open.
That's not airtight. You're good.
Open some windows, Marcus.
Open some windows before it's too late.
The windows. The windows. What if I close my door? I'm fucked.
So obviously this gets replenished by plants. It was actually surprisingly hard to get like a firm number on like the rate of that. But I got 2 numbers eventually. So I found one number that said that one tree will absorb like 48 pounds of CO2 per year and release enough oxygen to support 2 human beings per year. I also saw something saying that an acre of trees produces enough oxygen for 18 people. So who the fuck knows? Because there's more than 9 trees in an acre. So there's some disagreement on that part.
Yeah, someone's got a rounding error.
Yeah, but this is where cities run into a very real problem because there aren't that many trees in cities. So like, as an example, Central Park is like 840 acres. There's apparently someone at some point, like a rough count number of trees there. It was like 26,000. So depending on which numbers you use, that's either 15,000 to 52,000 people's worth of oxygen, which is a pretty big range, but there's also 8.5 million people in New York City. So I don't think it's going to cut it either way.
Yeah.
The way we get around this in the real world is obviously wind sort of is recycling the air, it's blowing in air from areas with more trees and blowing out the carbon, we're just keeping things cycled around and getting rid of that stale air, bringing in new air. But that's not going to happen. So just cities are going to kind of suffocate themselves. So that's exciting way to die. Number 2.
We could put
exciting.
Put the city on wheels. We'd turn into Mad Max probably. Everything would be on the go.
Everything is rolling us towards Mad Max. Both of these possibilities. So the third one, I'm not gonna lie, the third one is a little less scientifically backed because it was really hard to research this one because it's scientifically impossible. So this is pretty much all theoretical. So, all right, we're gonna sort of talk about what wind is. Like, wind is moving air. Okay, so
yes.
I know, crazy idea. Wind is moving air. As air temperature increases, the pressure in the air is going to increase, because that's what happens when temperature increases. And the air is going to move up because of how pressure works. Lower pressure, cooler air is going to move down, and that's how we get, climate and weather and shit. But if we don't have wind, technically that is wind, that movement of air. So technically what's going to happen is that as, say, the sun is out and there is air, as there frequently is in areas, that air is going to keep just absorbing heat and staying where it is and getting hotter and higher pressure as time goes on and not ever actually, equalize with air around it. So not only is the air just out in the sun going to basically be like, super hot and high pressure. Theoretically, I could not do math on this one, so I don't know exactly how bad it goes. But if you were to move from, outside in the sun to indoors or maybe even just into the shade, there's going to be a pressure differential very rapidly. And I don't know how intense this is going to be, but it could be anywhere from you go into the shade and you get like the bends like you do when you come up too fast when you're diving, or it could be like theoretically, depending on how intense this gets, if you like go inside, you could like, explode from the pressure differential. I don't know. I couldn't figure that one out because I don't know how to figure that fucking thing out. But pressure differential is a problem in this situation.
It's a pretty exciting way to die.
Yes, you could walk inside and explosively decompress.
I mean, technically, if we're qualifying wind as the movement of air, we're just not going to be able to move because we displace air, right?
I decided that displacement kind of has to happen. The air will not move on its own, I think is the best way to. Then you get into some hazy things with like, technically when you move, you're going to leave a vacuum. So I didn't go down that road because that gets just too far, but yeah. So like I said, that one's a little more out there, but conceivably, explosive decompression could be just a daily facet of life.
It's a little bit out there, but it's the coolest of the 3.
It's definitely the coolest way to die of my exciting ways to die.
It has nothing to do with Mad Max, though.
No, that one is not. I lost the Mad Max theme.